The following is presented by the Cheeky Bastards.
Come out to the coast, we'll get together, have a few laughs.
Yippee Ki-Yay motherfuckers, and welcome to the 20th edition of Dropping A Deuce, the monthly podcast where we watch every single one of Bruce Willis's 40 straight-to-demand releases from his acting career to see if he took the role for a paycheck and dropped a deuce, or if in fact he took the role and gave it his all and dropped a Bruce. I am the notorious Scott K.
And my name is Mr. Smith.
And together we will be your hapless stewards on this 40-month journey through the lesser-known films of Mr. Bruce Willis's filmography. This month's stop finds us having reached the halfway point in our fucking journey. So we felt, what better way to celebrate this monumental milestone than by kidnapping someone and forcing them against their will to join us in our delirium. And who better to have join us than the managing editor for CinemaBlend.com, co-host of the Real Blend podcast, and author of Bruce Willis, celebrating the legacy of an unbreakable Hollywood icon, Mr. Sean O'Connell. It is an honor to have him aboard as we review 2021 sci-fi action thriller, Cosmic Sin. And now it is my esteemed pleasure to welcome to this show a man who's been on my Church of Tarantino, a man who has helped us kick off season 3, and maybe one of our best episodes, and that's no bullshit, for our Cheeky Bastards Men of Action, a man who, as I said, he is the managing editor or guru, whatever you want to call him, of CinemaBlend.com. He is one of the 3 hosts on the Real Blend podcast, and one of the main reasons he's here is because he's also the author of Bruce Willis, celebrating the legacy of an unbreakable Hollywood icon. It is Mr. Sean O'Connell, who is the only person on this current panel to have all 40 STDs in his system, as he already did the Lord's work of going through every film. Thank you, Mr. O'Connell, for gracing us as we've hit number 20 of 40. We're halfway there.
It is so good to be back with you guys. I'm really strangely glad that we're doing Cosmic Sin. You'll find out why. I might be a little bit of a defender of this film.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I won't give away any sort of spoils. I'll let the people hear from them.
Well, it hasn't come out yet because we recorded it a couple weeks before it drops. But we started our sci-fi adventure last month with Breach. And Steve and I were pleasantly surprised. Now, we have claimed that it was like going to a local theater production of a sci-fi movie, and all of a sudden some really big name actors showed up into it. And you're kind of like, holy shit, they brought these people into this show? So we were kind of pleasantly surprised with how much we actually thoroughly enjoyed Breach. So we were very excited about this one. But before we defend the galaxy against some body-snatching aliens, it's time for our...
What you talking about, Willis?
Just the facts, man. Just the facts.
This film was released in 2021, written by Edward Drake and Corey Large, and directed by Edward Drake, starring Bruce Willis, Frank Grillo, Brandon Thomas Lee, Corey Large, Perry Reeves, C.J. Perry, Lachlan Monroe, Costas Mandylor, Adelaide Kane, Ava DiDomenici, and Trevor Gretzky, with a running time of 88 minutes. It was made on a budget of $10 million and grossed $349,000 at the box office. It holds a 2.5 rating on IMDb with a 6 critics and 54 audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. 7 rogue soldiers launch a preemptive strike against a newly discovered alien civilization in the hopes of ending an interstellar war before it begins. 308 Entertainment and Saban Films presents Cosmic Sin.
Good evening, General. Oh, wait. You're just a civilian now.
Mr. James Ford. General Ryle is requesting your inimitable counsel.
No.
He's offered to reinstate you.
From the top.
4 hours ago, the crew of the Vander made first contact.
Stay there.
They believe we're hostile.
In the event of first contact, humanity must strike first to ensure the continued survival of our species.
Operation Cosmic Sin is now a go.
That there
Because of Spacegate. They can bring their army here.
What's the status of the Q-bomb?
If we want to launch the Q-bomb, we need to get into orbit.
Suits up.
That's something, huh? We didn't know whether to burn it or put it in a museum.
I'm sure they said the same thing about me.
If we leave that door open, they're gonna charge in. We can make this the kill box.
We're not gonna wait for them to bring the fight to us. We're gonna take it to them.
What we do here is easy. The hard part is living with it.
Mr. Willis plays James Ford, a.k.a. the Blood General, a disgraced former general of the Alliance military who was dishonorably discharged from it for dropping a Q-bomb on a rebel colony and killing 70 million people. Take that, all you historical pieces of shit.
Could have happened to
You
anyone.
got nothing?
Could have happened.
What a body count. What a body
Take
count.
that, John McClane. Yippee Ki-Yay, motherfucker. Now, this is our sixth of 26 straight to demand, or STD, releases that he will do over the last 5 years of his career. This is his first of 7 STD releases that came out in 2021 and is also the first of 7 films directed by Edward Drake that Mr. Willis will appear in over the next 3 years. Bruce Willis appears in a total of 9 films involving Mr. Drake, as he also wrote 2 others, the last one being Breach that we saw. Now, I always try to come up with what I think the plot was. A mass murdering war criminal who, after killing 70 million people, was just sent home instead of to jail, is given a second chance to right his wrongs when he is called upon by his planet to save it from an invading alien species that, for reasons unbeknownst to even the species, the writers, the actors, the director, and the audience, they must take over human bodies, body snatcher style, when their true form is already human-like. Fuck if anyone knows why they want to invade some shitty planet that humans have colonized, but it ends up being a fuck around and find out moment on a cosmic level as they reawaken the Blood General. Now,
that's pretty good.
Right? I mean, I take some time on it.
you did
I
a good job.
want to work on it. You don't bring on a guy who runs his own website, has his
that
own
one, yeah,
cinema
it's
website
not-
and not fucking up our ante just a hair. I mean, after this is all downhill, but I mean, at least for this episode, we are really punching on all cylinders. Now, some of our behind the scene notes that we have come up with, one of the few Bruce Willis STDs that wasn't produced by who we call the shit stains over at EFO. You may not have heard this yet, Sean, but Steve and I have offered to fight for charity the founding members of EFO. We would gladly cock punch them to help raise awareness for cancers all around the globe.
I like it.
Name the time, name the place, and Steve and I are fucking there. Now, maybe to date, this is the best looking poster that I have seen of these Bruce Willis STDs. Like, it is so good. It rivals one of it. It has a feel like this should have been, or they were hoping this was going to make it to the cinemas, because the poster's really fucking good. Like, some of you kind of like, okay. You look through them, you're like, all right, that was photoshopped. I think one of them, it may have been Breach. I'm trying to remember. We've done so many now, but like, I think they took his face from, I believe it was A Good Day to Die Hard, and they kind of superimposed it. Like, they didn't get a still from the movie. They just took one from another one. So, hey, these are STDs for a reason, folks. That's why they're not on your local cinemas. But both Edward Drake and Corey Large, who wrote last month's Breach. Now, Bruce Willis's performance won a Golden Raspberry Award for Worst Bruce Willis Performance in a 2021 Movie, a one-off category for Willis's roles in 8 films released that calendar year. However, on March 30th, 2022, Willis's family announced his retirement due to a diagnosis of aphasia, a cognitive brain condition, and the Razzie Committee rescinded the award the next day, saying if someone's medical condition is a factor in their decision-making and or their performance, we acknowledge that this is not an appropriate Razzie to give them. So well done, Razzies. I do remember, and this is one of the reasons we almost started this podcast earlier than we did, is because they had come out that year when Steve and I were talking about, they started in its own Bruce Willis category. And I said, well, we've got to, this is just going to help us kind of go through this and talk about it. And then, of course, we put the pause on, just like the Razzies, when all of a sudden they did the aphasia. We said, well, we have to table this for a year. And luckily, they did remove it. However, prior to that, he had been nominated in 2020 for all 3 of his roles in these STDs.
Okay, yeah. Hold on. Before you continue, the fact that he won a Razzie for Cosmic Sin in 2021 is ridiculous. Because I want to just read off for anyone who's not up to speed the other 2021 titles. Out of Death.
Yep.
Unwatchable. Midnight and the Switchgrass. That's the Megan Fox one, right?
Yep.
Horrendous.
Directed by Emmett for the EFO people. That's his first directorial debut.
Survive the Game. Atrocious. Apex. Deadlock. And then Fortress. Fortress, not too bad. Fortress is okay. I'll give it a pass. But his performance in Cosmic Sin is not the worst of that group at all. Right. I'm giving it to Midnight and the Switchgrass.
While Mr. O'Connell is defending this role, he has just told our audience the next 8 films that are coming up you're going to listen to, you can fucking skip a whole year. Why don't you come back in 2025, pick up the podcast, then see if things are shaking up a bit. Steve and I are like, son of a bitch. We're hoping you were the one to bring us a little bit of like, hey, you know what? The ride's not as bad as you think it's going to be. But yeah, we have a feeling that it was always going to be this way. Now, Bruce, no surprise, filmed this in just 2 days, which he earned a reported $2 million for his work. This is, look at, I already had my notes. I thought I'd written it down, but here it is. One of the film's posters reuses Willis's face from Live Free or Die Hard. So the face you see on this really good poster is not Bruce from this film. It's from another film, Live Free or Die Hard. Now, in an homage to Star Trek from 1966, during the initial battle with the aliens, Dr. Leah Goss states, "I'm a doctor, not a god." Dr. McCoy of the USS Enterprise had many sayings similar to this. Early into the movie, the scene where the female sniper is on the ridge, the camera pans up from the sniper to Bruce Willis. During this pan, a lot of the crew is clearly visible in the top half of the screen. Now, while moving towards the enemy ship and betraying the dead alien combatants, Braxton Ryle points his heavy weapon right into the face of Sol Cantos. This is called flagging a friendly and is a severe weapons handling violation for any firearm handler. No trained military personnel or even a properly trained civilian would intentionally point their loaded and chambered weapon at another friendly ever. An anonymous critic wrote, "Let he who is without cosmic sin cast the first stone and possibly use it to rouse Bruce Willis from the slumber he seems to be in throughout this dreadful sci-fi blunder." Christy Lemire of RogerEbert.com gave the film a 0-star negative review and wrote, "To suggest that Bruce Willis is phoning in his performance in Cosmic Sin would be an insult to telephone communication, which can be an effective means of conveying important information and genuine emotion." Daniel Barnes of Dare Daniel wrote, "The brain-dead space opera stars Willis as a fading star who refuses to do second takes or give a fart." And Roger Moore of Movie Nation commented, "In a career steadily more weighed down with embarrassing credits, Willis squints occasionally to prove that he's not sleepwalking through this." I always like to read those because that's the pre-realizing he's got a disease. Then I wonder if they go back and have like an asterisk and just going, "Hey, we didn't know." It's kind of like, "Sorry, we came across a bit of dicks there. Didn't know." My bad. Like they send a bouquet over to Mr. Willis's house. Sorry about that. Now, I found it enjoyable, but I think what Steve and I have kind of talked about together is if you could take the beauty of, this film looks really good. Like this is probably, of the other 19 films we've seen, there's a few outside of his first, which again, we know it's kind of like the first one is assassination of a high school president. And we know that that was probably destined for the theaters, but for reasons unbeknownst to us, it never got the theatrical release. And that is still the one that we think is his best performances. He plays the principal. I don't know if you've seen it. I'm sure you have with Your Journey. We loved him in that. We loved that movie. We thought that was one of those irreverent comedies that would have flown beautifully in the 2000s timeframe. We were getting Superbad and all this stuff coming out. So that looks like a really big time production. And then I think it was Once Upon a Time in Venice was another film along with Catch 44. Those two felt like they were primed to be theatrical releases, considering their cast, considering the way, obviously the look of the film. But being that this, was probably destined to always be a straight to demand release, it really looks pretty damn good. And we thought if you could take this look and put it with last month's film, you'd have a pretty fun B-movie sci-fi adventure. Your thoughts?
Yeah. So there are tiers of these movies, and I think that Cosmic Sin exists on a weird tier where money was spent on it. Or if money wasn't spent on it, then at least they hired people who knew how to do some stuff with nothing, because and again, all of these films have to be judged against each other, not against normal movies,
Agreed.
So in the grand scheme of these other films, this is good. It's actually good.
Yes,
it's actually good.
Yeah.
There's people who are trying. There's a story that's at least different enough, beyond small town local, police detective or head of a small town detective who's in the wrong place at the wrong time, of which that's the number one. Like the minute we're in sci-fi world and he's playing a guy named the Blood General, or I'm like, this is instantly better than most of the other drivel that I've had to watch him suffer through. People are trying here. You're right, it looks good. Like from a sci-fi perspective, it's impressively shot. It's not Georgia, it's a legitimate production. Frank Grillo, I give him a ton of points, for coming in and injecting all the attitude and the charisma that comes with being Frank Grillo. I think Bruce is dialed into his performance. I actually think he likes being this character. So I'm giving this, grading on a curve. I'm putting it pretty high on the list of the movies that he appears in this later stage of his career. And again, all of those factors have nothing to do with his eventual diagnosis. These are other elements that are surrounding him that are enhancing the rest of the product. And whenever I kind of shit on some of these movies that he appears in later, it's never because of his performance. Even when his performance isn't kind of up to snuff, I think he's meeting the material kind of thing. And it's always like, oh, this is a terrible script. Oh, this is directed really poorly. Oh, Megan Fox is awful in this. It's other things. It's other, like, quite often he's surrounded by amateurs, who can't act their way out of a paper bag. But this one has legitimate people who are good in it and working towards a story that you don't get to see that often. And so I give it more than a pass. I actually say that it's not worth your time, but it's not painful. It's not painful to watch. And many of them are painful to watch.
It's probably better than quite a few of the Netflix straight movies they've been creating anyways.
Sure.
There's a couple that just came out recently. Netflix is picking up its game, but there's a lot you go, now I see why that went to straight to streaming.
Well, when we judge these movies at the end of each show, and we talk about was the film a Bruce or a Deuce, but we also talk about was his performance a Bruce or a, and like you've just pointed out, a lot of the time that's hard to criticize him because he's not given much to work with.
Right.
In a lot of cases, like you say, either he's up against other terrible actors, or there's no script, or the story's dog shit. So it is difficult sometimes. And this is the second time I've watched it now, and I kind of enjoyed it a lot more the second time. But I think when it's less of a shock to the system, what you're getting. And it's been a nice change of genre for a start. And like you say, like the beginning of this movie, you do sort of think, they spent some money here, because the intro scene of, in the suits, the sort of Edge of Tomorrow style sort of suits that they're flying through the air. You think, oh, wait a minute, this is on another level.
Well, quite often, a lot of these movies look like they're shot over the course of a weekend.
Yeah.
And there isn't a costume department. It's just like, hey, just come to the set in whatever you're wearing, and we'll make do. So the suits alone, are like, oh shit, there's been some design here.
Yeah.
Cool. All the money's spent on the suits because everyone else in 500 years from now is still wearing the same regular outfits and driving the same cars. Because look, we put all our technology into this Q bomb and into these fucking suits. Fuck your rest of your stuff. Wear the dungarees and the jeans from the early 2000s, and fuck off.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a sort of what I like to call a heroic failure. There's an attempt. They're trying. You've got to give them credit for that.
I think it's Edward Drake and Corey Large. I think that these guys, they're not going to be world-renowned screenwriters, but in the world of the B movie, straight to what's it called? They are actually, like, the ones before, we enjoyed, like, they had some good quips in here. They have some fun lines that we have not gotten in a lot of these movies up to this date. It's usually, like, at the end of the segments, Steve and I pick, what's our favorite one-liner? Half the time, we're like, I don't fucking know. Like, we're just trying to pick something up that may just been said stupid or dumb.
Yeah.
But the last 2 months, these guys have written some fun fucking things. Like, being sucked up by the universe isn't the worst way to go. Like, that is a choice line that Bruce should have been saying, but he doesn't say. But it's those things that you feel like that's something John McClane might say, or as we bring it back our other show, Martin Riggs might say. Like, these guys do have at least a panache for knowing when to throw in some good little lines and have some fun moments within the film that helps break up the monotony a lot of times of these, as you said, Sean, no one else is acting and everyone else is just sleepwalking. And I was on a journey when I first started podcasting with Nicolas Cage, and we would look at a standard Nicolas Cage movie and I have to pay off my IRS debt. And what I always felt about Nicolas Cage was no matter what the film, he always brought a performance and was always acting. And I think he got a bad rep where people thought he was overacting because no one else in the film was acting. Everyone else was there for the paycheck. Here's Nicholas doing a whole character and everyone else is just, would you like me to open the door for you? Like, it's just so wooden and nothing's happening. So he looks like he's fucking out of his mind, but he's actually trying to give the audience something. He doesn't care if it's Oscar worthy or if it's straight to DVD. He wants you to know he's working, and everyone else is just kind of like, I don't really give a shit.
So I want to take a moment to drill down on Corey Large, who actually I think deserves more. Like deserves a
good.
better
I
career.
was hoping I wasn't.
No.
Raising the man's flag, and you're going to tell me, guy's a pedophile. He's on the blacklist. Let's not talk about it again.
So he's in Breach. I didn't. I apologize. I did the bare minimum for the preparation. I didn't rewatch Breach. Heading into
okay.
this. But
we'll send your assistant a copy.
Is he good in that? Is he decent?
I don't remember him
from
in
from the Detective Knight films, of which he has a pretty big part in the Detective Knight movies. He's got like an arc. So is he good in Breach?
He's better in this.
Yes, he's better in this because how about this? I forgot that he was in Breach because of how much more memorable some of the other things going on in Breach were as opposed to what he was. I thought he was funny in this one.
He's more like, in this, he's like Bruce's sidekick a bit, isn't he? Whereas not in Breach, he's not. So
well, and right from the bar scene, like the bar scene, I think could pass in another legitimate, contending movie where you meet the main characters for the first time. Like, it's a badass scene, and I think you're probably right. It goes back to the writing of that, and it goes back to these guys kind of believing in the story that they have, and recognizing that, okay, look, we're not going to reinvent cinema here, but we're going to give you something that you probably haven't seen before, and it's going to play on a few familiar tropes as well too, but we're going to put a spin on it.
I was thinking, this reminded me like this, like Interstellar meets Ghost of Mars, is what I was thinking when I was watching. You can kind of, like you say, that it's playing with certain. And no one's thought of doing that before.
We do have a segment or a coming up. We do at the end of every season. We started a thing called the Brucey Awards, and this year we have a new entry, which is the John Cusack Award. Because what movie was it, Steve? It's in New Orleans.
Prince.
There's the Prince.
The Prince.
John Cusack's in the Prince for 5 seconds. You forget he's in the movie.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I even text Steve the day I watched it first. I said, "You're gonna watch this film. I'm telling you right now that John Cusack's in it. You'll know about this text. You're going to watch the movie, forget he's in it, and he's going to pop up and you go, holy shit, this guy was in it." Sure enough, he remembered the text. He goes through the movie. I was like, with 30 minutes left, all of a sudden there's John Cusack. So we've got a lot of what we call the John Cusack Awards. And last month, it was Thomas Jane. And this month, it really is Frank Grillo because like he's there at the beginning. Then whatever takes him in his 1980s car to get to where he needs to be, then they send him into space, and somehow in that little battle, he gets disabled, and then all of a sudden he pops up at the end. You're kind of like, oh, that's right, Frank Grillo's in this film.
Yeah.
And so the last 2 films, I thought Thomas Jane and Grillo were going to be the stars, and Bruce was going to kind of be secondary. But what we're starting to shift into, at least at this part of our journey, is Bruce has started to move towards the front of actually, like, even though he's there 2 days, he still seems to be the lead guy for the most part. Because there's a lot of ancillary characters, a lot of characters who come in and out, and we get moments with them, but none of them step front. Like, no one's front and center. It's always, eventually it's Bruce is really the guy that everyone's got to go to for answers. Even though he was a space janitor in the last film, everyone's still going to Bruce for all the answers. And so whether we know it or not as the audience, he is kind of pushed forward as these leads that we didn't really think he was going to be in.
Yeah, I almost thought heading into this that it would end up in a situation where like he's back home and he's communicating with the team as they're on their mission
via desk and phone.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm looking over the cast for this, and it's possible that it's just wrong because I do not remember seeing him. It says Luke Wilson is in this movie. Is Luke Wilson in Cosmic Sin?
No, I went through that as well. I think he might have was supposed to. You know what though? Maybe he had a small role and then was cut.
Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, that's a possibility.
I'm just wondering if I missed him.
Yeah, no.
That was weird.
Well, it's like the new movie, this doesn't have anything to do with it, but the movie Strange Darling.
Yeah.
In its credits, it's got Giovanni Ribisi, and some people think he's the actor, but he's the cinematographer.
He is.
So
yes.
some people have like, oh, I didn't know Giovanni Ribisi's in this movie. You're like, no, he's not. He's behind the camera. So he's technically there with the actors, but he's not doing any of the acting.
Strange. Maybe Luke Wilson voiced something. Maybe there's like a voiceover over a speaker or something.
Yeah, they couldn't get James Earl Jones before he passed. Like, I guess we'll deal with Luke.
He was out acted by Corey Large, and they wrote him.
There it was. He was like, hey, you want to do the Corey part? He goes, I don't know if I can handle this.
Corey stole his thunder.
He did. But one of my favorite moments, and I'm trying to think back to all of Bruce's stuff he's done, and I'm thinking back to the G.I. Joe where he plays the original G.I. Joe, which is one of the better of the two G.I. Joes. It really was. When they brought The Rock in and they had him, it was so much better. But he gets to use a bazooka in this, and that was just, I don't know why I got so excited when he came out with the fucking bazooka. Like, it was such overkill, but it felt like it's the right amount of overkill, right? Like in this, Steve and I have bitched that if you're going to make these movies, just give us fucking exploitation B movies.
Yeah.
I don't mean this to be sexist, but there should be titties and explosions and a lot of swearing and ridiculous things happening that we just go, okay, maybe it wasn't the greatest movie, but damn, was that a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You know, like we talked about on our other podcast, The Beastmaster. Anyone can really tell us what The Beastmaster's plot is? We're not sure. But what we do know is that it goes from one amazing moment to another amazing moment. And after a while, we don't know why he's doing what he's doing, but we're so glad we're on the journey with him. And this felt, at least these two sci-fi movies we watched, felt a little bit like these guys, Corey and what's his face there, knew, where they were playing, at least what pond they were playing in. And that we got a little bit of that. We got a little bit of the fun. It's like, hey, do we need to blow up these space aliens with a bazooka? Probably not, but we're gonna. And I was like, thank you for at least having the balls to do that.
No, I agree. And it's fun to be able to say that Bruce was game to play along with that, with the over-the-topness of it.
Mm-hmm.
He's not taking himself seriously. He knows kind of what the tone of this movie is going to be, and is happy to play along. And I dig that.
There's a few Bruce Willis smirks in this as well, and the fact that he's, like you say, the fact that he was only there for 2 days as well. We get our money's worth. And like you say, I was fully ready to sort of, okay, we're just going to get him on a phone somewhere saying, don't drop the bomb, don't drop.
Right.
I thought he was going to be the John Cusack of this movie. Where he was just
the Frank Grillo where he just gets you by the screen.
Well, where you're sort of like, the main reason you're watching is for Bruce Willis, and a lot of the times so far, he's barely, in a lot of them, he's barely been in it anyway, so in this one, the fact that he's only in it for a couple of days, he's only on set for a couple of days, and you get your money's worth.
Let's discuss the Q bomb. Do we assume that we've gone through every letter from A? And it's just gradually increased until we've gotten to Q.
This is how many problems there had been since our time, So 2000 and was it 2,236 or whatever?
Wasn't the Q supposed to be like some kind of quantum bomb or something like that? Like at this point, look, they're playing in sci-fi world. They're like, I'm sure you've seen the movie. I don't know if you both have, but the Thank You for Smoking, where they're talking. What's his name? I forget his name. I'm blanking
Aaron
right
Eckhart?
now.
Is it
Aaron Eckhart is in the studio talking to Rob Lowe, who's the head of the studio, and they're talking about, hey, we need a guy who can smoke in space. We want because the cigarette company wants him to smoke space so they can sell cigarettes. And he goes, I don't think you smoke in space. And he goes, so what do we do? And Aaron Eckhart goes, we'll just put a line of dialogue in there. Like, and that's basically what this is. It's like quantum bomb. How does that work? It doesn't matter. Say quantum bomb, call it the Q bomb, have everyone's asshole pucker when they say it, and the audience is going to go along with this shit. I don't give a fuck, So it was funny, the Q bomb. I don't know if it's supposed to be tongue in cheek, but even the way they say it, sometimes I'm thinking, am I supposed to be laughing right now, or is this not a joke? Like, I kind of felt like they were tongue in cheek, like, yeah, the Q bomb, you know? All right, I'm with you, right? We're having fun here.
It's killing 70 million.
70 million. And I was in the military. He just got a dishonorable discharge. He didn't go immediately to prison. Like, that's immediately to prison, immediately to death, because that's like a huge fucking act of war he did. And he's like, I
want to be in the writer's room where they were trying to come up with that number. And they were like, what if the Q bomb kills like 7 million? And they're like, no.
That's Hitler numbers. Bigger. Like, wait a minute. Do we need to go bigger?
When he pressed the red button, whoops.
I just love that CJ Perry, that she was kind of sexy. At least we got her. I don't know if she's a great actress, but she plays Soul Candles. I just like when they talk to her later, she's kind of like, fuck yeah, I love the blood drone. She's like, fuck those, whoever they were, they deserved it. I'm like, wow. I was like, all right. A woman was like, fuck these cocksuckers. They all deserved it. And the funny thing is, I think it was other humans that were like in a revolt. I think it was a rising, an uprising on one of these, we've now gone out Blade Runner style and we're colonizing everything. And so these colonizers were fucking had enough, didn't get their 401k, and they uprising. Bruce Willis said, no, you don't get no 401k. You get the fucking Q bombs. What you get, cocksucker. Bam. Kills them all. I don't know if he was great in all his action scenes, but the thing I did think Bruce was really good was when he interacted with Perry Reeves from
Entourage.
Yeah, when she was on Entourage, she plays Ari's wife. I thought his moments with her, he had a really good sentimentality with her. I thought like the most believable moments for me were those moments. I mean, he was doing his standard, I'm Bruce Willis, I'm a badass, I'm going to do a little bit of a Clint Eastwood right now. I'm going to talk low and squint a little bit. I thought, though, when he had his moments with her, they were kind of like the most believable. I actually believed that they had been married and that there had been a falling out between them and that he really wanted to kind of bridge that divide between them and bring things back.
Yeah. Again, why I'm pushing back against this Razzie. Like the idea that you can even point to a scene where there's legitimate human emotion, disqualifies it for consideration for a Razzie, of which, we know that there are multiple movies released this year where he's phoned it in completely, and is not engaged in the material and is not given any material to engage with. And Cosmic Sin at least tries to go the extra effort to write a bit of an arc and a bit of a backstory for his character, and then give Bruce a little bit of something to play with.
I always feel like the Razzies are a way of just making fun of famous people for taking roles that, like Ben Affleck being Daredevil. I mean, was he that bad at Daredevil? I don't know. I mean, look, I get it. This is with the time before you know of the aphasia. I understand. You look at it and you go, okay, all right, Bruce is taking a paycheck. But at the same time, I never felt like he was, there's one this season. Steve especially thought it was his worst performance. So there's been a couple. But overall, some of these are like, he got nominated for Breach, and we thought he was fucking great in Breach. We thought he was just slapstick, just coming out zingers and bringing so much fun to it.
We really needed a good one.
Yes, we needed Breach. Even if it's not a great movie, we needed the performance.
It was getting tough, and Breach was, that it was small, but
same guys. But I'm wondering if it's the EFO effect, because once I found out the same guys wrote and had something to do with Breach, and then I found out that they moved this to a different production company who put money into it, it started to make me go, those fucking pieces of shit over at EFO are taking all the fucking money and nothing's getting done, and they're making a high school production of a sci-fi movie. Meanwhile, you give the same guys more money, and I mean, there have been some real shitty CGI effects from major studios this past summer and recently. Like the Flash movie gets a lot of fucking heat, and I would be willing to die on a hill that said there are CGI effects in this film that stand up a hell of a lot better than some of the VFX effects that we see in the fucking Flash.
Yeah.
And then they are playing in two different sides of the ledger with money abilities. So, you take the EFO people out of the equation, and I think this was another one of the Saban films, and you let Saban films, which again, they know who they are. They're a STD film company. They're saying that most of their stuff goes right to demand, but they at least fucking put money in and allowed their VFX people to do the best they could to make this look like a sci-fi film. Look, it was never going to look like Star Wars or the Avengers or anything like that, but it's better than The Flash. Looks better than The Flash. And so I think EFO is a big, Steve and I already believe, they either use that as a front to run drug money or sex trafficking. There's just no doubt in my mind. There's no way they can make a movie, these many movies, for $10 million, have no profit, and keep getting money. Like, there's just something illicit needs. The FBI, I wish they would listen to the show. Just one guy. Someone look into these cocksuckers. There's no freaking way they could keep having this kind of money,
right,
and not make a profit and still make movies. I couldn't walk up to us with a screenplay that I've written and be like, let's make this movie. But somehow these clowns can. So something's going on.
Hence, have you guys, where's the box office? I just had the box office up.
Box office is dog shit at best. I think it's 349,000.
Yes.
Now, whenever we see that they hide the budget, we've usually found it's around 10 million. That seems to be our standard. We just go that that's the standard they start with, because a lot of them have been. And that says a lot when they hide the box office. Listen, I'm not paying IMDb Pro just to find out the box office. I'm sorry, IMDb Pro. You're not that valuable that I need to pay for that so I can find out what these clowns spent. But even if it's 5 million, the shortfall is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, who's it? Trevor, who was supposed to do the second Star Wars or the third Star Wars, had a bad return on one of his movies, and
Colin Trevorrow.
So Colin Trevorrow has what would be considered a bad Hollywood box office, gets pulled from the third Star Wars film.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the folks over at EFO are bombing left and right, and they keep getting money. I mean, Colin, if you're listening, I know you're a fan of the show, maybe find out the EFO people. They'll get you the Star Wars you're looking to make, because
they're under the radar. It's, no one's paying attention to it,
But still, they have to get money, right? Like, so who's bankrolling this? How are they getting these funds?
Yeah, something's going on.
That's what we're always asking. Like, well, if you're bombing every left, right, and center, and you're bombing 7 movies, 8 movies a year, how are you blowing 80 million and barely crossing 2?
Right. Well, I think a lot of it as well is Bruce Willis gets $1 million a day or whatever. Maybe they only want him for them days, though.
Well, they're paying him to hopefully get some overseas money, but that's still not rolling in. It's not even crossing $1 million.
The only thing I can think of, and I have no clue if this is the case, but like, say for instance, the investors are like Middle Eastern oil industry folk, right? And they want to be involved, they want to meet Bruce Willis, come to the set, hang out, do the thing. Who knows? Like, maybe it's something like that. But it could also be. I like your theory better.
So do we, because we want them shut down, because we think there's some scumbag motherfuckers who have taken advantage of one of our favorite human beings to ever grace the screen. And now that he can't defend himself, I feel like we got to John McClane this thing. I think we got to swoop in and we got to fuck these guys. We got to rig style this thing. We got to get Mad Mel on board. We got to take these bastards down. So
pretend you're going to buy some Christmas trees.
Exactly. And Steve will be the Joe Pesci. He's going to be. But I don't know. This was kind of a fun film. It was slower. The pacing held it back, where what we felt made Breach move is, there's 4 sets. Like, there's just 4 sets. And some of the sets, as I was telling Steve, all it is a good old camera trick. You film heading north, put the camera to the other end, film heading south, and it's 2 different hallways. And now you've got 2 sets for the price of 1. And that one plot, although it did take a while, did seem to have something bouncing back and forth quite a bit. I felt like in this one, we jumped because Bruce is there 2 days, because Frank is there 2 hours at best. I don't know that Frank was there. I don't know how long. He was there maybe a day, because most of us that we did green screen. And like you said, he was filmed this time sitting in a car on a phone. So we've got, we filmed him driving to the set. He got to the set, he left, he went home. But it feels like we spent a lot of time with some of these other characters moving on to things. And we have absolutely no idea why these aliens are invading. We have absolutely no idea why any of the things that's happening are happening. I don't think the characters know why they're happening.
Right.
That's the one drawback, I think, for the film that slows it down and kept it from being as fun for Steve and I as Breach. Because, look, we know what Breach looked like, and I'm sure you remember. It's a high school production. With like really fun actors showing up. Imagine your son, if he's in high school. We're gonna hope our son's good. Hope he doesn't make a mistake, doesn't fart on stage, remembers his lines, doesn't throw up, and hopefully we'll get through this in about 2 hours.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're like, tonight, and the lead role is, and you're like, Bruce Willis. So that's how we felt about Bruce. Like, wait a minute, Bruce Willis in this high school production. So it didn't look as good, but I thought it was more fun. This one had a lot more big guns and badassery. But I did feel like I was kind of wondering what is happening almost the entire time. And
Yeah.
Your feelings. Maybe we're wrong because you seem to really enjoy this, and I think the only reason maybe Steve and I don't enjoy it as much is if we saw this first and then Breach. I think we would have a different feeling. I think if we flipped them the way we saw them, we would come into it with a different eye.
And we don't know what's to come.
Well, we do now. He told us. He really showed us that, spoiler alert, kids, Santa's not real and that the presents are nothing but reindeer shit.
We'll talk in a month or two after you guys have plowed through and you guys are going to be singing the praises of Cosmic Sin. You'll be begging.
we'll have a repeat episode.
Begging to come back around.
We'll have a Cosmic Sin revisited. We'll have a little.
Yeah, you are lined up for a few choice Bruce in a car, performances.
Yeah, we know. We know.
We can feel it.
Yeah, again, the only way I can say it is that I'm grading on a curve because the plot, if anything, the plot of this movie is overly complicated. But again, I sort of chalk it up to I admire it is aspiring to at least tell a story. It's weird to say I enjoyed it. It's not an enjoyable movie by any stretch.
Comparatively.
But I give it credit for trying. I give it credit for, I do love the random performances, here and there by certain actors. I think it's not that Bruce is giving a really good performance, but it's almost like this time out, they wrote a part that fit the type of role that he was playing at this time. He was giving this performance in almost every movie, but this one at least carved out a niche that was like, this is going to fit his attitude, He's a disgruntled, former military guy at this point who has a checkered past, and family issues, emotional issues, and that fits the role that you need him to play for the story. It's almost like they reverse engineered, knowing what they were going to get out of Bruce from his performance, and like, okay, well then let's write a part that matches that bit. So, while it's not, I'm not going to circle Cosmic Sin as something that's an extraordinary thing that's going to last on his resume. But when you compare it against all these other films, which is what we're kind of doing as part of this show, it has more things going for it, than I anticipated. I still think on balance, there's other things going against it that don't make it worth the time necessarily. Like I'd never really recommend you check out Cosmic Sin. This is such a weird exercise, because it's not gonna get to the point where you're like, yeah, this is in the top half of Bruce. No, it's not. It clearly isn't. But in the ranking of the bottom stuff, it's toward the top of the bottom stuff, and that makes it worth a discussion at the very least.
That's so like you disliked it the least.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. I disliked it the least of all the other most of the films. There's another one. I'm blanking on the name of it. It's still my favorite of all of these. And it takes place in a prison where all the prisoners.
I was telling Steve, you told me about this on my other episode where we were kind of just hanging
measures
out.
Or something
I think it
like
is,
that?
yes. And Bruce is like the top level superhero. It's a prison for superheroes. You're telling me.
God, it's fucking great.
I'm looking forward to it. I don't think it's till season 3 though. We got a way to go.
Great, but good.
I think we've tried to preface that whenever we talk. We always tell people, look, we're looking at these in a journey that most don't do, which is we're doing them all in order they came out, and we understand, which I think has also helped us in our day-to-day movie love, where like I think a lot of people should do stuff like this because we get bogged down with like it has to be this or it's nothing. It's like it's either a classic or it's dog shit.
Right.
And no one sometimes goes into a movie knowing what they're going into. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed last year's Thanksgiving because I knew what that movie was, and it hit everything I wanted it to hit. Is it going to be up there with, like, Citizen Kane? Well, no, it doesn't want to be up there with Citizen Kane. It wants to be its own thing in a B-movie, horror, fun time you get. So I know what you're saying, and when you talk about Cosmic Sin, no one's going to say, well, what's the top 5 Bruce Willis movies? And someone will go, right below Die Hard is Cosmic Sin. That's never going to be said. But there is a thing about this journey that Steve and I have enjoyed where it's not even just Bruce's performances. Sometimes it's people who you forget where they're like in a TV show and like this is the world that they only move in. It's the only world they were ever able to get to, as they've never been anything but a C-list B-movie actor. And like Paul Gosser we saw in a movie that's just absolutely ridiculous. But we enjoyed the shit out of it. Because it was one of the few movies from season 1 that knew it was a B movie and just said, fuck it. We're going to just have so much fun with it.
Precious Cargo. Yeah.
Precious Cargo. We enjoyed the shit out of that B movie.
Daniel Bernhardt was in
Daniel
that one.
Bernhardt is fucking...
Is that Mark Paul Gosselaar?
Mark Paul MPG's in
That's
that
a fun
motherfucker.
movie.
That's
a fun movie. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yep.
But we had so much fun because of what it was, and it knew what it was.
Yeah.
I don't understand why the modern day STDs are so afraid of just swinging for the fences and saying, fuck it. It's only going to be the demand anyways. Let's try something, see if we can't catch fire.
There's another actor I want to single out from the ensemble. It's a Canadian actor, Lachlan Monroe. He's starting to show up in a few of these movies. He'll be in a few more of them. He's had a long career. I like him in these parts. I like him in these movies. I think he's a good actor. I think he brings the right amount of support.
Oh, right. Yeah, I think he's in Freddy versus Jason. I've seen him in a few things, actually. I think that's the guy.
He's in the Predator. One of the Predator reboots that they brought up around. He's been around for a really long time. He shows up. He's in James Gunn's Peacemaker show right now too. So
yes, he is.
Good
I
actor.
know the guy. But yeah, I think sometimes with these movies though, because we're obviously taking notes and stuff. When I watch them the second time, I kind of find myself liking them a bit more. Once I've got past the initial
shock.
Not necessarily, but or disappointment, whatever. Then when you watch it the second time, like this time, I must admit, I found it an easier watch. I sort of had a bit more fun with it this time, definitely. So, not that I would recommend everyone watch these movies twice. We have to.
A lot of personal time.
Funny thing is, the only two most disappointing things for me, and Steve and I talked about this the first one, did anyone else want Bruce Willis to be playing the harmonica at the end of the movie?
Yeah, that would have been great.
I was actually thinking, oh, they're doing this. Like when we cut to the bar, it's been Bruce playing the harmonica the whole time. I feel like that's the biggest mistake this film made, was not doing that. Like everything else I can go with. It's a sci-fi movie, Q-bomb, whatever. I don't care.
That's a real missed opportunity.
It's really, yes. That's why he deserved the Razzies, because he didn't play. Actually, the movie deserved it because I didn't have Bruce Willis playing the fucking harmonica in a harmonica moment.
There's no reason not to do it. There's
none.
No reason.
None.
He would have.
And then they don't even give him a fuck buddy at the end. Everybody else gets a fuck buddy except Bruce.
Well,
I mean his ex.
We know how she's not interested in sex.
I know, but look, he deserves something. He wasn't allowed to play the harmonica.
He's like a Buddhist monk.
The Blood General's got no time for that.
No,
that's frivolous behavior.
A Buddhist monk who will kill 70 million people in the blink of an eye if they want their 401k. All right, but other than that,
he's interested in other, cosmic pleasures. Cosmic.
What becomes of the Blood General after this? He goes off, starts his own band, doesn't play harmonica. What do we think happens with him? He doesn't get a sequel.
I don't know. Cosmic Sin 2.
Cosmic Sin 2. Not starring Bruce Willis.
Yeah, Cosmic Sin.
Frank Grillo returns.
Grillo returns and drives around a little bit more.
Yeah, in that 1975 Plymouth Dodge truck. It's just, I would love that. I love when they're like, this is sci-fi. And you're like, but that looks like this year's model of the F-150. And is that a Levi's jean jacket he's in? But this is 2718. Okay. Yeah. And like all the highways are still the same. There's the buildings haven't changed.
It's a thrift shop.
It is. Steve, you got anything else you want to add about Cosmic Sin?
Not really. I mean, like I say, not to repeat too much, but I did enjoy it more this time. Once I knew what I was getting, and there's some, these kind of these Martian guys with these metal face masks and stuff. I mean, they should have just like we always say, should have leaned into that a bit more and just really, because it is a bit slow. There are pacing issues with it, but yeah, Breach and Cosmic Sin put together, I think you'd really have something. This one, I think like I say, it's a heroic failure. They aimed a bit too high. Yeah, just a bit more enjoyable this time. But overall, it's no Breach, guys, is a sentence you'll never hear anywhere else.
Even on the cover of Breach.
Roger Ebert, that was what he said. On the DVD
From
cover.
the grave, Roger's like, type.
It's no Breach, but 2 thumbs up.
The quote on Cosmic Sin's poster. It's not quite Breach.
Give it a look.
But it's not out of death.
Get out of death.
Mr. O'Connell, your final thoughts on Cosmic Sin?
I can't recommend it by any stretch. But if like these lunatics, you decide to go down this road, Cosmic Sin will feel like a tall, cool glass of ice water as you trudge through a desert of mediocrity.
That's our new clip. We're gonna
That's the
steal that quote.
tagline.
That's the tagline for the
That's the
show. Tagline right there.
It feels like it at least occasionally aspires to be a movie. Bruce is Bruce. Grillo is Grillo. I like the exosuits. I think they're cool. I admire it for having a bit of a story. So in the grand scheme of these disastrous films, this one's making it not quite to the top tier. I don't think it's the best of this bunch, but it's one step below the best of the bunch. I'm putting Cosmic Sin fairly high in the rankings of these Dropping a Bruce films.
Now, how do you feel about like this kind of a journey? Not to like pump us up, but Steve and I, when we took this journey, we weren't sure what it was going to be like. I don't want to speak for my cohort, but I've actually, even though it has been a slog at times, and sometimes I tell people we do this for free. Like no one's paying us to do this. You did it to write a book and make some money. We were dumb enough to do it. We'll do this for free for 3 years, you know. But there's something that I think I've gained a new respect just for filmmaking. Like I don't think I feel as nose in the air, you know, as I may have had my taste before. I feel like watching these kind of films and seeing people who are some people are just trying, like this is all they're ever going to get. Like this is the best they're ever going to be able to do. And so they do the best they can with what they have. And look, they're not great. And that's why they stay where they are. But yet there's something about them and going through this is kind of like, I don't know, it's almost like a badge of honor. It's like, yeah, I got on that ride and now I've got 40 STDs and you know, we have the stamina to do so. I don't know, it just kind of feels like a little bit of an honor to be able to go through it. Maybe save people the sadness that we've had. But it's also then, now that we have the aphasia known, it's kind of heartbreaking to see Bruce there and knowing that these are the last films I'm going to see of his. I'm never going to see another one. And unfortunately, they're not the Bruce that we're used to. But yet there is a warm blanket feeling of like, well, at least there's still, it's like we still have 20 more Bruce movies to see. Yeah. There aren't 2 more Bruce movies coming out anymore. There's nothing coming out. So there is a bit of that like, well, we still have 20 more presents on wrap, even if they're garbage, even if they're just like, well, we could have got one out that. There's a hint of that.
So these movies are really fascinating from this perspective that in the industry, in terms of the industry standard, they're between traditional theatrical releases and strictly made for TV films, of which, you know, that's even a level that's below these, you know, so they're in this weird middle ground. And you guys talked a bit about it earlier in the show with they're getting financing from somewhere. So there's a semblance of them being professionally made movies. And so the inclusion of Bruce obviously opens up a couple of doors. There was always a component in his career of him being involved in a movie gave a film a certain amount of latitude because at the time it guaranteed an opening weekend. I've heard from directors like Luc Besson on Fifth Element, Terry Gilliam on 12 Monkeys, who said just simply by getting a actor of Bruce's stature, it allowed them to kind of make the movie they want to make. And then to a certain extent, that's happening on this level as well too. These B-level directors, C-level directors are able to make the movie they're making because they're securing a talent that they can put on the poster, even if he's in the movie for 7 minutes, you know? But it's not just, so yes, Bruce is the focus of these movies, but think about the other people who are showing up in these things. You get John Travolta, who's showing up in a few of them. You get, you know, actors of that caliber who are no longer bankable action stars, but haven't fallen completely down to making Hallmark Christmas movies. So, you know, it's worth analyzing these movies from that perspective of where do old Hollywood stars go, you know, when they want to continue to work, but their career isn't what it used to be anymore. You still see people like Harrison Ford getting Marvel films. Like he's never going to fall down to that level. But there's absolutely the Nick Cages, you know, of the world who every once in a while are going to break out. Like Nick Cage had Long Legs this summer. It was a bona fide horror hit. But he's not, you know, that far removed from a year from now showing up in a Cosmic Sin level movie. And it's an interesting thing to think about what the industry does with their icons, you know, with their talent. They essentially put them out to pasture, and pasture for someone like Bruce ended up being these STDs. And I think that that's really fascinating for you guys to capture. that this happens to these actors.
Did you write in your book? Would you have watched all these Bruce Willis movies anyway?
Hell no, Jesus no. I have a life. I have a family. I have
a life.
I don't know if this was a good idea to bring him on. I feel like we've been dragged through the mud here today.
I might have checked out a few of these out of curiosity's sake, right? But I have, over the course of the 25 years I've been doing this, had to sit through more than enough movies for my job that have made me come to the realization that like life's too short, you know, because I've had to go to, like, the way I kind of describe it to people is like, if you watch a trailer and you think to yourself, like, I'll never watch that piece of shit. Like, that was my job, was to go to that and analyze that. So, you know, Hilary Duff had a career and it lasted several movies and I sat through all of them. So I'm not doing that to myself anymore. No matter how much I love Bruce,
I hear a Real Blend spinoff coming.
Yeah,
we salute you, sir.
The Duffers.
There's just been too many movies that I've had to be like on a Tuesday night, drag my ass out to a screening and just be like, I'm going to endure this. So So I admire you guys. You're doing the Lord's work.
Appreciate it.
Someone has to do it, and Godspeed.
Yeah, thank you. We can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy day.
Really appreciate it.
To help enjoy one of many Mr. Willis's STDs, before you go, where can our listeners find you and your new book on the interwebs?
Sure. So the book is called Bruce Willis. It's easy enough to find, and it's available anywhere you get books sold. It's Amazon. It's easy to find on Amazon. There's a Kindle version of it as well, too, if you want to take it in that way. It's available at bookstores all around the country and some international markets as well, too, which is really cool. I'm on Cinema Blend on a regular basis, writing stuff for the website. And then, as you guys mentioned at the beginning of the show, I have a podcast of my own called Real Blend with two of my really close friends. We do movie news on a regular basis. We get interviews with a lot of directors. We get filmmakers mostly who are coming on who want to talk long form about the movies that they have coming out. We just this past week had James McAvoy and James Watkins, the director, for a movie called Speak No Evil that's in theaters. But go look up Real Blend, REEL. BLEND. We're on YouTube and all the different places you get your podcast needs, Matt.
Thank you so much, Mr. O'Connell, for jumping on to Dropping a Bruce. We look forward to your Dropping a Duff coming out next year.
Thank you, guys.
The alien ship is 2 clicks north. Let's get the coordinates of their home world and murk some aliens.
Yes, sir.
Oh, shit! Oh, shit! Take cover! Did anyone get out of the shot? Negative! Forget me! Leave me in Barca! I'm not leaving you behind! Finish the mission!
What the?
Hey! Hey! Identify yourself!
Hey! Weapons down! Speak up now! What's going on? What the fuck is happening?
The humans they hide in, they can't speak. Say something.
Get that fucking gun out of my face! Like the man said!
We're friendlies. Yeah?
All right, it is now time for our final thoughts on this movie. And we start with favorite scene.
Favorite scene.
My good man, Mr. Smith, you will lead us off first. What was your favorite scene from Cosmic Sin?
Well, I feel like I didn't have much to choose from. I think that's fair to say.
It is fair to say. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so...
As I discussed in the episode.
I've got the harmonica solo playing while the Martian Overlord gets stabbed to death.
Aren't you still disappointed that it wasn't Bruce Willis playing that? I was hoping in the credits it was going to have Bruce
checked the
Willis
credits.
was playing them on. I actually was hoping that at the end we were going to get Bruce's character, like, because they cut to that band.
Well, if he would have been stood under the stars
playing
on his
the
own,
harmonica while this
playing the
happened,
harmonica,
amazing.
that would have been.
Because they cut to at the end of that film, they cut to some, they got the now a hologram jukebox, but some guy's playing the harmonica.
Yeah.
I was so hoping. It's a failed opportunity from the filmmakers to not have had that.
Well, the whole film is a heroic. The whole, as we've said, the whole film is a heroic failure. But yeah, if it would have just cut to him playing harmonica under the stars alone, because you would have had that kind of little wink to the scene earlier with the lady who turns out to be the fucking
yeah, exactly. What his wife? I don't know.
I don't know who the fuck she was personally. With all that was going on in that movie, there were not that many decent scenes to speak of. So I'm eagerly anticipating what you're gonna have.
I'm glad you dropped the ball on this one because I felt like there's only one scene that deserves it.
Okay.
Bruce Willis ending the initial invasion on the military base with a fucking bazooka. Bazooka Bruce shows up and blows away the people. And they use real fire this time. Like there was some real explosions finally, not just, hey, VFX it all the time.
Yes, true.
This film, as we said, looked really good. They spent a lot of money. I think a lot of it has to do is because of EFO did not have their fucking rapist little fingers in this, stealing money for their sex trafficking operations. And we actually had Saban Films and the other people who were part of this gave them some money and they actually used the budget wisely. We had the same people write Breach who wrote Cosmic Sin. And they, they went with it. Too bad they just didn't film the different films differently. Too bad Cosmic Sin wasn't filmed with EFO and they didn't do Breach with this because they could have killed it.
My sentiments exactly. Yeah.
But for me, yes, Bruce Willis ending the invasion on the military base with a fucking bazooka.
Best one-liner.
Now, as far as one-liners come, it wasn't until I did the research for this after seeing the film that I realized that it was the same guys writing it, which is why I found that from Breach, we had some really good lines.
We did.
And I felt we had some really fun lines in this film as well. It was one of the shining spots. So if anything I could say about Mr. Large and Mr. Drake, they know how to write some funny lines. I feel they lean a little into Shane Black territory.
Oh, they tried.
Like they're trying to do some funny little one-liners. And you know what? I'll give them credit. I didn't feel any of them are forced. But once again, what was your favorite one-liner from Cosmic Sin?
Well, you're going to know what I mean. There's two words in mine. And that's when Dash walks in and goes, "Who died?"
Who is Mr. Corey Large?
Yes.
Dash is Corey Large, yeah.
When he just walks in after Costas Mandalore, who's been euthanized.
Great name. Great real name.
Yeah, when he's been euthanized by Bruce Willis. Yes. He goes, "Who died?" Sorry, there were a couple of others, but to me, that was just what?
I'm glad. I thought you were going to take this one. I'm glad you didn't.
No.
Well, look, in all these sci-fi movies, especially bad ones, they always describe the technology that what things could and couldn't happen. And I just I forget the actor's name, but he's been told that, if we try to go through this portal and what could happen to us, you could be sucked into space, he goes, or into the universe. He goes, being sucked up by the universe isn't the worst way to go. And I thought, what, son? You goddamn right.
Yes.
You said a goddamn right. It's just a great line, right? It's just like a perfect line.
I did recognize that one.
Yeah, I was like, what?
Did. Yeah.
I took my hat to you, sir.
I picked on
so
that.
being sucked off by the universe isn't the worst way to go. And I think that is actually should have been the byline for this film. Cosmic Sin, being sucked off by the universe isn't the worst way to go.
Ladies and gentlemen, there are a million things happening in this movie. And none of them are as interesting as the dialogue. So
True. Yes,
which I never thought I'd say. I never thought I'd say.
The plot breaks down at many points. It goes and then it stops, and then it goes and then it stops, and that's what hurt this film. And
yes,
it made an 88-minute film feel longer than 88 minutes, and that's kind of hard to do sometimes.
Certainly did.
Best performance.
Now, our best performance, I think I'm going to shake you up with these. I think my best performance and favorite character, I don't think you're going to see coming. I don't think you're going to see him coming.
I'm interested.
I was surprised, but we'll see what you've got. Who do you think gave the best performance in Cosmic Sin?
I'm going with my man Costas Mandalore.
Motherfucker, it's my pick as well. I thought for sure. Marcus Bleak. I was like, he's the only guy. He knows the assignment. He knows the assignment of the film.
He's good. He's great. He's really.
When he died, I was like, no, we need him.
I was devastated. And the way he died too.
Yeah.
A bit
We could have
really
killed off Frank Grillo.
anticlimactic.
He was barely in this film. He's our John Cusack.
He's the John Cusack. He gets the Cusack Award.
This is two movies in a row
What
that
the
we
fuck
had
happened to Frank
Thomas
Grillo?
Jane and Frank Grillo, and they're not in it. Like, they pulled the Bruce Willis. Even though Willis was there 2 days, it felt like they were there a day each. Like, I got other things to do.
Yeah, so Costas Mandylor for me. Actually, he's got a famous brother too, Lewis Mandylor. He's
Oh, and also a guy named The Mandalore.
This is the way.
This is the way.
Yeah, check out a film called The Debt Collectors. Right. So Lewis Mandylor and Scott Adkins are Britain's
I know who he
by
is, yeah.
far best martial arts actor. Well, possibly the only one. But yeah, anyway, that's Lewis Mandylor. He's fantastic. And The Debt Collectors, there's a sequel. They are fucking great if you've got nothing better to do. Yeah, for me, Costas is the main.
Yeah, for me too. One, he's got a fantastic fucking name. A fantastic name.
I might change my name.
I actually thought this was a fake name. I thought like this is some kind of like character name. Like this is a name you give a guy in the movies. You know, not Marcus Black. He should have just used his name. Who are you? It's Mandalore. Costas Mandalore. Like, no, yes, sir.
Whoa, fuck. Don't fuck with this guy.
He was good. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
He knew the assignment that he was playing in the film. And I just loved him. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping, I don't know, I'm hoping he makes some others. There's a couple guys we've come across.
He's actually got a decent filmography anyway.
Yeah.
He's been around
So we've
for a
got
long time.
Costas and we've got I forget the guy's name, but we've got our boy from Hard Kill, our bad guy there. Those two are up for best supporting actors.
We'll see when the awards come around, you know.
Yeah, I like these two
When we
already,
get our
so-
ballots in, we'll...
Yes.
Favorite character.
Well, that'll bring us to the favorite character. Who is your favorite character?
For me, this is an easy one. Dash.
Okay. All right.
I'm going with Dash.
Okay.
Corey Large, the writer
Corey
of
Large.
the movie. Funnily enough, the writer of the movie gets all the best lines.
He is funny. He is a funny fucking guy.
He brings great levity to what's
He does.
going on.
And he doesn't even know why he's in this film. Like, there are times his character, like, the guy comes on screen. I think a lot of people are like, where were you for this fight?
At one
And then
point,
they're
he
like,
does
"Where-"
say, "Can I just go?" He does. He does sort of say, when it's all about to hit the fan, he's like, "Could I just go? Could I just get out of here?" That was another line actually when Bruce Willis said, when he says to Bruce Willis, he says, "I've been thinking." And Bruce Willis goes, "Did it hurt?" That's another line. He gets all the best lines.
Oh, my favorite Bruce Willis line is how you know the aphasia's peaking in is when he was just like, cool. Like, someone said something to him, he's just like, cool. It's like, okay, yep. This is when those lines have been cut down a lot. They're like, yep, Bruce, you just say cool. He's like,
just
gotcha.
say that.
I got this one.
But yeah, man.
Now, for me, I picked Sol Cantos, played by C.J. Perry, the sexy sniper. Goldilocks with the big cockskin guns.
She's got steel titties. She's got yellow fucking braids.
Hair. She is a UFC fighter or wrestler, and she is having a fucking blast in
Well,
this film.
that's a way to go out.
She's doing what Bruce Willis was doing in Breach. She's just having fun. She's carrying this giant 50 cal sniper. She's blowing people away. She's got some I've handled bigger. Like, she's got some choice lines of herself. She's always got like this shit-eating grin on her face the entire time. Like, she's almost like, I'm glad these aliens are invaded. I have been wanting to kill something anyway, so let's get it on. I actually appreciated her. I would have preferred a movie of her and Costas Mandylor together.
That's a movie.
You can let Bruce Willis and Frank Grillo take the day off. Just bring those guys in. I'd have been perfectly fine with their characters because they were a lot more fun to watch than some of the things we got in this film, unfortunately. Yes.
Amen to that.
All right, well, that'll bring us to our moment of motherfucking truth as we close out the halfway point.
The moment of truth.
All right, we start with, did Mr. Willis drop a deuce or a Bruce? Mr. Smith, how say you on his performance?
Well, it pains me, but Bruce dropped a deuce.
He most definitely dropped a deuce.
He's pretty vacant throughout this movie.
Yes, which is so sad, considering if you listen to our Breach episode, we have not seen Bruce as excited or as engaged or as fun in a long time as we did in Breach. And so I thought it was going to parlay over to this. And while I can't tell you who the actual star of this film is, I think it's supposed to be Bruce. I thought it was Frank Grillo, but Frank Grillo's in it less than Bruce is. Bruce is in it the most. for the most part. And then some people get their moments, like they're on screen longer and then they go away for a while. So it's definitely an ensemble piece. I think Bruce is the lead, but he is sleepwalking through this the entire fucking time. The only time he's good, because he's so subdued in his acting, is when he's having like those little nice moments where the lady's supposed to be his wife who's left him. Other than that, he's just kind of like, he's the blood general. And the blood general of what? What blood? Who's he general of? He's just, I don't know. If he had said these lines, he wouldn't have gotten this if he had said these lines. I'm too old for this shit. If he had said those lines when they wanted to bring him in, I'd have been like, okay, the rest of the movie, he's a tired old man who's tired of playing war games, and I'd have gone with him the rest of the way. But I, too, will give him a deuce just like you did. And it's disappointing because strong performance in Breach, a better produced film, one of the best posters that we talked about, looking film. Like, this movie has a look of like, man, this should be in the theaters. Like, it is one of the better produced movies we've got a chance to see.
Agreed.
And Bruce as Buzz Lightyear, Buzz Bruce, just does not. He doesn't even get to infinity. Forget going beyond. He just can't even get to infinity.
Well, as we said earlier, at the very beginning, when they're all flying through the pre-credit, I'm like, oh
yeah,
we're onto something here already.
And he crashes down to earth and he's bloody, and you're like, yeah, here we go.
Oh dear.
And then it's just
downhill from there.
This is where the aphasia. Now that if you have the information and you've done our journey, this is one of the moments aphasia is peaking in. It's pretty much Bruce getting all his lines read to him in an earpiece. And unlike in Breach, where we saw the earpiece when he rolled over in bed that one time. Great job by the producers on that one. Then I fucking have him roll the other way or put the earpiece in the other ear. He literally, they cut his lines down. He just says cool at one moment. Like, you could tell he just like doesn't fucking want to be there. Doesn't care.
No.
It's disappointing because he was so fucking good in Breach, but not in this one.
He most definitely dropped a deuce.
And that brings us to our final quote. Is the movie a Bruce or did it drop a deuce? I think we both know the answer, but I will allow Mr. Smith to wax pontifically over his decision.
Yeah, this is a deuce.
This film most definitely dropped a deuce.
Which is all kinds of wrong that I'm saying that, because this has got everything going for it, really. Alternatively, if they would have spent the money they spent on this on Breach would have been awesome.
Yes.
But this is a mess of a movie. There were genuinely points in this where I didn't know what was going on, and that shouldn't be the case for something that is ultimately so basic. It's so convoluted, and there's all these ideas. And like you said, like Frank Grillo, you forget he's even in. I'm sure he did this as a little favor. I've got a feeling, maybe Bruce helped Frank Grillo out early on in his career, maybe, or something. Made some calls, and he's now doing payback time sort of thing. He's sort of shown up in a few Bruce movies when he clearly needn't. So yeah, there's just such a convoluted plot. It's so chaotic what's going on, and none of it. It sort of fails at every turn, really. Everything's a bit just not quite, they don't quite pull anything off, which is a shame because it's not a bad looking movie. They've clearly got some money, but they made the wrong movie with it. So I'm sorry, but this one's a deuce over here.
I am also surprised that I'm going to give this a deuce because from the look of the film, the high points of the film is the visual effects for a B movie have been some of the best we've seen, some of the most realistic we've seen, and better than some of the big budget actioners that we've had, especially from like things like the MCU and the DC people. This looked better than what they were producing. It had, the sets were a lot better. Look, they're still driving Ford trucks, as we talked about in 25, whatever. They spent the money where they could spend the money. They had a decent cast. Some of the acting from the non-big stars wasn't bad. We had some decent performances, but it went nowhere. Where, like we talked about in Breach, Breach was trying and had nothing, had no budget. It was like this theater production of high school had decided to go for the fucking go. They just said, we're going for it all. We're going to get this on Broadway. Like, they just went for it.
Community
and they had fun.
Yeah.
They had 4 sets and they made the most of those 4 fucking sets. And it was a much more enjoyable fucking film experience. And this one, like the aliens, as I pointed out, they already have human form. Why do they need to take over humans? We don't know. Why did Bruce's wife suddenly seem like she was then on their side? None of this stuff makes sense. None of it. The only thing I can think of is that they had been watching Star Wars, Star Trek, and the first Avengers movie when they made this thing, and they stole a lot of the visuals of it. But for a movie that looks so good, if you turn the sound off and you just catch someone watching it, you might think that you're watching a sci-fi movie that was like an independent one that only made it to certain theaters, and now you're like, oh, it's on streaming. What is this?
Yeah.
And then if you were to see the poster for it, you'd be like, oh, this is something that's going to be playing in my local theaters, because it's a beautiful poster design.
Well, I think Breach looked like a sci-fi channel movie.
Yes,
yeah.
or even a Shudder movie, if you want to even go lower. But it reached for the fucking stars, where this one was already there, and all it had to do was bring the same level of fun from Breach, and it would have been one of those movies we'd be like,
and which is a crime, considering that's the same people making it. So you know what to do already. Come on.
He most definitely dropped a deuce.
Yep, so unfortunately, this movie gets a double fucking deuce, where last week we had a double Bruce.
Yeah, I mean,
It's disappointing, but we're at the halfway point now. 20 are in the fucking bag, so we got to do it all over again. We're starting back at square one. But it'll be fun, and we thoroughly appreciate Mr. Sean O'Connell giving up his time to spend it with us down here in lowly STDville.
Yeah, thank you, man. We're so glad you came back.
Yes, we do apologize for the STD that you did get, but now you have one, we have 20, so hey, we got 20 more to get, 20 more. So please join us for the second half of our journey next month as we begin our slog towards 40, as we start again now with 21 as we go with Out of Death. So apparently no one's dying because there's no more death to be had.
That is actually the poster. That's on the poster.
And that will do it for our 20th episode. We want to thank Sean O'Connell from the Real Blood Podcast and author of Bruce Willis, celebrating the legacy of an unbreakable Hollywood icon, for joining us as we celebrate reaching the halfway point of our Bruce Willis STD journey. Now, the links to all of Mr. O'Connell's endeavors can be found in our show notes, so please feel free to reach out to us on the show's socials, which can be found in the show notes, and tell us what you thought about this film, how you feel about Bruce as an actor, or even to let us know what you think about the podcast. We'd also greatly appreciate it if you give the show a like, leave us a review, and follow the podcast on the last of the Action Heroes Podcast Network, where you can find other amazing podcasts dedicated to such iconic action stars as Stallone, Lundgren, Van Damme, Schwarzenegger, and Seagal. The link to the network can also be found in our show's notes. So won't you please join us again next month as Steve and I pull our Willis Winnebago over as we start the second half of this journey with our review of Bruce's role in 2021's action crime thriller, Out of Death, to see if he dropped a deuce or if he dropped a Bruce. Until then.
Yippee Ki-Yay, motherfucker.
This has been a Man with an Exceptional Beard production.